We all know the name Socrates, right? The father of Western philosophy. But what if I told you his death is one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries? We know he was executed by his own city, but the official charges against him, well, they've always felt a little flimsy, a little too convenient.
Okay, so here's the official story. Socrates was charged with impiety and corrupting the youth. Now, this guy was 70 years old. He'd lived through wars, plagues, and a whole bunch of violent political takeovers. So why, all of a sudden, was he a national threat? It just doesn't add up. Most scholars agree there had to be something else going on, some secret reason. So what was the real crime? The one nobody could actually talk about out loud?
To figure out the real motive, we first have to understand the smokescreen. See, the public image of Socrates was not great. He was seen as this annoying, kind of ugly and crude guy, and he got slapped with a very specific label, a sophist, which was basically public enemy number one in ancient Athens.
And a lot of this came from popular comedies. Think of them as the late-night shows of their day. Aristophanes' play Clouds was basically a massive propaganda piece against him. It painted Socrates as this total fraud who sits around debating whether knots buzz out of their mouths or, well, This caricature made him look ridiculous, and more importantly, it made him seem completely untrustworthy.
Because that's what a sophist was in the popular imagination. They weren't seen as philosophers looking for truth. No, they were seen as intellectual magicians, guys who used clever wordplay to tie you in knots, make powerful people look stupid, and question every single value Athens held dear. That public image made him the perfect scapegoat.
And you can see why people saw him that way. His famous Socratic method, to his enemies, felt like a series of intellectual traps. He would back powerful people, like his student Alcibiades here, into a corner with question after question until they were forced to admit they knew nothing. Now, to the person on the receiving end, that doesn't feel like a fun search for wisdom. It feels like a public humiliation.
But that whole public persona, the annoying sophist, that was just a distraction, a really useful one. The theory goes that Socrates' real crime was revealing a secret so sacred, so dangerous, that you couldn't even say it in court.
For 2,000 years, the single most important religious event in the entire ancient world was a ritual called the Mysteries of Eleusis. This thing was the absolute heart of Athenian culture. It promised initiates a happy afterlife, and it was so important that even Roman emperors made the pilgrimage to be a part of it.
And at the very core of this ritual was a secret, and the law of silence around it was absolute. I mean, along the road to the temple, they had stones with the names of people who'd been executed for talking. The property was seized, their families were shamed. The message could not have been clearer. You do not talk about the mysteries.
So what was the big secret everyone was dying to protect? Well, at the climax of the ritual, initiates would see a holy vision, an apparition of the goddess Persephone floating in pure light. But some modern research suggests this amazing vision might have had a very rational explanation, a device that worked kind of like an ancient camera obscura, a projector, basically, that used firelight to cast the image of a small statue into the dark hall, creating a kind of holy movie.
Okay, so a secret ritual, a possible projector? How on earth does Socrates get involved in all this? The smoking gun, believe it or not, is his single most famous idea, the allegory of the cave.
When you put them side by side, the parallels are just stunning. In the Mysteries, you have initiates gathering in the dark to see a vision created by a fire. In the allegory, you have prisoners chained in the dark watching shadows cast by a fire. You see where this is going, right? Socrates wasn't just coming up with a clever thought experiment. He was describing, in detail, the most sacred and secret ritual in all of Athens.
And then you get to this line, and it is absolutely chilling. Socrates, through Plato, says that if anyone ever tried to free the prisoners and show them the truth, the others would literally kill him. He's talking about himself. He's describing his own fate. He was the guy trying to lead people out of the cave, to show them that their most sacred vision was just shadows on a wall.
So here's the bottom line. By basically explaining how the trick worked, Socrates committed the ultimate act of blasphemy. He wasn't just being impious, he was calling the holiest experience in their world a cheap illusion. And that was not just philosophy. In that context, it was heresy, an unspoken crime punishable by death. Which brings us right back to the beginning. If his real crime was this unspeakable act of heresy, how did his enemies actually get him convicted?
Well, they weaponized the caricature of him they had spent years building.
They couldn't go to court and say, hey, this guy revealed the secret of the mysteries, because then they'd be revealing the secret themselves. So they used the smokescreen. They put him on trial as the annoying sophist from the plays, the public menace who twisted words and corrupted kids. It was a charge the jury could easily understand, a charge they already resented him for, and it was the perfect legal cover to get rid of him for a crime they could never, ever name.
So in the end, Socrates wasn't really killed for asking too many questions. He was killed for giving one answer too many. He pulled back the curtain on a sacred illusion, and he paid the ultimate price for it. Which really makes you wonder, what illusions, what shadows on the wall are we all still accepting as reality today?